When I reviewed Superhot all the way back in 2016, I called it a breath of fresh air from the half-broken Call of Duty clones of the time. I'm not sure I'd say the same thing about Time Break 2121. This is a brand new Superhot clone that completely flips the mechanics around by slowing down time when you move and speeding it back up when you're standing still. That's a cool concept, but is it enough to set it apart from the game that prides itself on being the most innovative shooter in years? Let's find out. This is the story of Jax, whose life is turned upside down when his sister talks him into being part of an experimental project conducted by a shadowy organization called Allware. He went in a regular soldier and came out a superhero capable of bending time to his will. But all this power came with a price, and Jax now fears that he's been turned into nothing more than a killing machine. Now he's on a mission to escape the laboratory and fight his way to the Allware headquarters, where he'll put a stop to the evil experiments and win back his life. Like I said at the top, Jax is able to slow down time by just walking around. It doesn't exactly stop time completely, but it's enough to dodge and outrun bullets, as well as to get the jump on pretty much any bad guy. However, and this is the thing, when Jax is standing still, the world speeds back up and our hero is left vulnerable. All it takes is one stray bullet or spear in the gut to kill Jax. So the trick is to keep moving and kill Allware's guards before they get you. Now, beyond being able to easily dodge enemy attacks, the advantage of slowing down time is being able to easily line up a bunch of shots in a row. This creates a lot of great shootouts where we run back and forth aiming and firing, only to then hide behind a wall and wait for those bullets to hit their targets. We're also able to dash around the bad guys in order to stab them from behind and watch their surprised bodies float around the room in slow motion. Lining up a bunch of well-placed shots and thoroughly confusing the enemies is not just satisfying, but also has the ability to make you feel like a real badass superhero. But don't get too excited, because you're no Superman. The problem Jax runs into is that there isn't enough ammo. This is one of those games where they'll give you 6 or 7 bullets to take out a dozen enemies. No, that's not a mistake, the math doesn't add up. Time Break 2121 is a game where every bullet counts, and winning means using the guard's fire to your advantage. It's a lot of fun exploiting the crossfire by speeding around the room and confusing the bad guys. And if that doesn't work, you can just get up close and stab everybody. Now, this is the part of the review where I feel like I have to mention that I really like this game and have no problem recommending it. If you liked Superhot, then you're gonna dig this for a lot of the same reasons. However, Time Break 2121 is rough, and there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed, a few of which are gonna sound a lot more negative than they actually are. I really hope the next bit doesn't scare you off, because this really is a fun game. The most obvious problem is the performance, which has a lot of issues with textures and blurring. The game runs smooth for the most part, but the visuals distort in some really annoying ways. There are a lot of times when the game can't decide whether what you're supposed to be looking at should be blurry or clear, so what it does is it just switches between the two at random. There are also issues where it feels like the textures and even the characters haven't popped in properly, which can lead to some real frustrating deaths. Speaking of technical concerns, this game has a real problem dealing with the lifeless bodies you leave behind. The very act of touching them has the potential of spinning your view 180 degrees, which can be deadly in a game about precision. And when they aren't screwing up your aim, the dead bodies will prevent you from moving forward and will even trap you between bullets. And that's not even the worst thing, because I ran into a couple of dead bodies that shot Jax 100 feet into the air and completely out of the geometry. Another issue is that the difficulty swings wildly between levels. The game is at its best when the stages are bite-sized and don't require a lot of trial and error. However, there are a few massive levels that'll take you at least an hour of repeatedly trying to find the right path and getting the enemies to cooperate. Part of the problem is because these stages are too long, but it's also because of the lack of ammo and the amount of corridor areas. This is a purposely difficult game, and not all of it plays fair. Sadly, there are a lot of smaller elements that also get in the way. I'm not a big fan of how finicky the knife can be. This is a game all about sneaking up behind enemies and stabbing them, yet that mechanic didn't always work as advertised. There were just too many times when I would die trying to stab the enemy in the back, only to have them shoot me while looking the opposite direction. How does that even happen? And speaking of enemies, I wish there were more types of bad guys to take on. There are really only a few repeated enemies, and most of them just stand still until you shoot them in the face. And it sure would have been nice to have more moves or superpowers to use. I don't know, like a double jump or even a slide move. Just like the weapon selection and the enemy type, the gameplay is limited. But look, these technical problems, limitations, and difficulty issues are annoying, but they aren't a fatal blow for Time Break 2121. The time-bending mechanics go a long way to make up for the roughness, so it's just so much fun racing around the room and confusing the bad guys. I also really enjoyed the futuristic cyberpunk world they've created. We end up seeing quite a bit of Neon City and Allware before everything is said and done, and it often felt like I was fighting guards in Blade Runner. Toss in a catchy synth soundtrack and you have a stylish action game that offers something a little different from your typical first-person shooter, warts and all. Although it's clearly inspired by Superhot, Time Break 2121 manages to set itself apart with a superhero story and stylish, futuristic setting. This is a game where you slow down time by moving and speeding it back up by standing still, and the developers have had a lot of fun working that gimmick into a bunch of great action stages. Unfortunately, the game isn't as polished as Superhot, which results in a lot of technical problems, difficulty spikes, and levels that overstay their welcome. If you can get beyond the roughness, Time Break 2121 is a fun action game with a great premise. Yeah, you should make time for this one. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. What game would benefit with time controls? I'm talking about the ability to slow things down or rewind time, all of that sort of stuff. I'm excited to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, I'm currently hard at work on a review of Decay of Logos, as well as part 2 of the official GamePro video game IQ test, which is gonna go live this Friday. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.